What up, traders? What up, investors? Ken here from Dyslexic Investor, and thank you for tuning in for another fantastic video. We're going to be looking at an update video. This is an individual who YOLO'd into PLTR earnings, making a very crazy, outlandish bet. We can look at it here in a second. This is the original post about 8 days ago. We featured it maybe a week ago on this individual buying calls into PLTR earnings. Again, that's what happened last week. And he was buying that weekly's expiration between the cost average around $16.36. So the strike price around the $16 to $17 strike price. Again, this guy didn't leave too much details within the description on his intentions, where if he's going to hold through it, if he's going to sell some. But again, keyword, he did say YOLO, so he was YOLOing it. At the time of the post, he was already down nearly 37K out of the 100K. So he was literally already down over 33%. So that wasn't a world's greatest start, but that's when the stock price was around the $13, $14 range. As you can remember, we'll look at the chart in a second. It kind of had a run up, and again, earnings was somewhat of a smorgasbord of emotions, and kind of just slightly fanned out as a positive overall run. Another thing we wanted to highlight, Let's Save Grandma. This post is a little bit older as well, a couple days, that, hey, let's help Grandma keep her 500 shares of PLTR. Again, she's bottom at a cost average of $12.44. So give her a little thumbs up for that down below, letting her know that it basically closed at 1580. Again, we'll look here in the chart in a second. Looking for the PLTR potentially to go higher, lower. We'll talk about support and resistance on the chart here in a second. With that, a lot of people were looking at this and saying that the George Soros hedge fund was buying PLTR. Their 13F filings have not shown that on this previous quarter, but again, everyone's referring this back to the 9/30. So they're looking back way towards the end of September, that they added nearly 18 million shares of PLTR around the average price about $9.50, and their current price at the time was around $14.58 of this documentation. So nice little move for them. But again, a lot of folks have been saying like, oh, look, they added this into the week of the earnings. No, this was added throughout a whole quarter of stuff, way before most people were even thinking of buying PLTR, especially on Robinhood. And if you haven't looked at, we were talking about PLTR way before within our Discord. We have talked about PLTR multiple times. I know Alpaca has really talked about it quite a bit within the chat. A lot of people have been getting into it, mostly in shares. But again, if you're interested in joining the Discord, there's a link in the description down below, completely free, and definitely check that out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the charts. As you can see here, we've had that huge move higher. Again, we had earnings. It was somewhat of again, they lost money on earnings per share, but it's growing. That being said, this chart looks somewhat similar to, I'm not going to compare it to NIO, but again, it's similar to a very fast, aggressively moving 5 and 8 moving stock. So what we mean by 5 and 8 moving stock, the 5 and 8 moving averages, if the stocks, the tickers or the candlesticks are between those two lines, it's usually hinting, by hinting I mean hinting, that it's basically looking for a very aggressive move. It's somewhat of a rocket ship. It's very fast momentum driven stock. And again, we've seen that. Again, PLTR is a newer IPO, came on the market not really long ago. That's when George Soros bought its fund on the opening of the IPO date. And it just kind of was doing next to nothing for over a month. And then people start talking about it some more. They're like, hey, what's this PLTR they do with the government, CIA? Okay, they're going enterprise stuff, blah, 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 blah. And then, it's a cheap stock. Let me post about it on Wall Street Bets and get all the gamblers and degenerates on the stock, and let me just run it up real fast so I can get some quick profits and buy myself a new game from GameStop. So with this huge run up here, we're seeing that 5 and 8 moving averages really showing the support levels. Again, with earnings, it was quite of an emotional move again, because it hit a high of like a little over 17. The same day came all the way down to about $14.30. That's a pretty large range for a stock that's trading at these levels. Really highlighting here on these charts here, we can see this. This is a 15-minute chart. We're actually going to zoom out to an hourly chart and kind of see these moves here. Seeing these really aggressive moves higher, again, with earnings, really highlighting this here. Sold off into earnings. Earnings was kind of a mixed bags. People didn't know how to justify it and look at it. But then coming to Friday, this is Thursday, and this is Friday. It kind of popped higher and is now looking potentially to resume to kind of potentially go above 16. So the original post that guy had most likely is going to be underwater. So what I mean by underwater is the individual had the 16 or 17 call for that. Again, I'm not able to, this is the expiration for the 13th. Of course, that was on Friday. And you can see on what overall traded, because again, all these stocks, again, the in the money was at 15 because the stock closed at $15.80. Of course, the $16 call went to complete zero. Most likely this is what the individual had, and seeing this really go to zero, you can see on how the theta decay here in a second. We'll look on the chart here on basically coming to earnings. This was on the 12th. Again, that's on Thursday before the earnings. It went all the way down to a little over down to 50 cents, but it hit a high of $1.74. So the individual could have got out with a profit, because if we go back over here, we see that his average cost was about $1.36. So that was hinting on a potential, could have got out with a little bit of a profit. But again, if it was a true YOLO and you wanted to die on the sword, he would have to let that run. Of course, with options expirations on the weekly time frame and literally giving yourself 1 day on a large exponential move in the sense of earnings, meaning IV crush, we saw that move really kind of come into the downside. Because again, the stock really was kind of hit and miss throughout the whole day, and that basically it opened up. We can go down to a smaller time frame. Actually, we can do like a 30 minutes. Waiting for data. Thank you for Tastyworks. So while we're waiting for data, we're looking here at Tastyworks. So this is what I use for trading my stocks, my equities, and things like that. I absolutely love it. It's a lot of, it's really smooth. It's great. It's always up. You get really fast fills. And if you're interested on joining, they have a special, I believe they're still running. If you move your account over with 2K, you get 100 free shares or 10 free call options. Again, the link is in the description and below for the affiliate link. Definitely check it out, even if you want to take trading a little bit more serious and really move your investing to the next level. So with PLTR, you can see that that call option was doing fairly well, kind of because again, it was somewhat highly inflated due to the fact of the IV was still high going into earnings. But once earnings happened, everything is just taking off the table. Like imagine you had a beautiful table set and you pull that tablecloth from underneath it, but imagine it being on the wrong side of it, and everything, your nice china, your nice silver, gets crushed, smashed, ding banged. And that's basically what happened to this individual, where that option just was not in the money. It wasn't too far out of the money, and the IV crush just killed it. Even though the stock did move higher towards the end of the day, the likelihood in the IV crush just killed it, basically opening up around like 17 cents and hitting a high of that day around 34 to 39, and just not really able to kind of come back. And then you see that really just deteriorating going into the day of just getting well below the 1 penny marker, which is the last sign of death there with that understanding of options. So basically, the moral of the story is, if you want to YOLO options, especially with options expirations on weekly timeframes on the same week of earnings, is most likely don't do it. Like, I'm just be straight out. It's kind of idiotic, because again, he could have been right even if he bought the 15. So we can see here. Let's go here. the $15 strike price to kind of give you a better understanding. Like if he like we're talking about a difference of $1. Like if he would have bought the 15 strike price, he would have been a little bit better off. Because again, even if he bought it at the buck 30 or buck 40, whatever it was, he still made some of a profit and was able to buy the shares because the options would have executed and would have been assigned the shares if he ever so wanted to. But again, even with that options, he could have retained some of his profits because again, it closed around 76 and it really went up towards the end of the day because it was closer to being in the money, and it was that theta decay was still deteriorating, but that option was much higher up on pecking order, and it really just allowed it to really go higher and really not really have that theta decay definitely kicked in, but it was still close enough to being at the money or in the money where it really didn't affect it that much. Any of those options outside of that $15 strike price really just deteriorated really fast. So imagine there was actually a comment within the post that someone bought the $20 strike price for the same expiration. He said, let's go, brother, whatever, I'm going to die with you. Again, a little YOLOing, just again, I don't like to throw money away. I don't like to gamble. And that's basically what these individuals are doing on the same spectrum. So with that one, of course, that was going next to nothing. Again, the reason it is 15 cents going to earnings is because its likelihood of not reaching it. So the market makers are not stupid. They are stupid sometimes. But with this hindsight of the sense of like, hey, uh, they're saying it's by Friday or the next day, the likelihood of it hit $20 is not very likely, and that's very well represented. So you're buying the 15 cent or $15 sorry $20 strike price for about $15, and you're like, this is gonna print money for me tomorrow. But we have to understand that option has to reach up to $20, so the stock has to jump up literally 25%. So that's a pretty significant feat, even though the stock has already run up 25-30% into earnings on top of the overall expectations, everything being a new IPO, all these other things that it could be causing any kind of signs of issues. You're really just betting on taking a dart, and you have a peach that's 100 yards away, and you're trying to throw that dart, and you're trying to hit that peach with that dart. Like that's what you're really kind of hoping for. That's basically the same odds because this guy individual gave him the same odds of basically hitting that peach at about less than 10%. I don't know many people that can hit a peach with a dart 100 yards away, even 10 yards away. That's pretty significant feat in that sense. So that being said, when that option opened up, it literally was just flat. It bounced around to 5 cents to basically 1 penny multiple times. But again, the options market said, nope, that's not happening. The earnings came out, the IV crush happened, and just really just tanked it from 15 cents to zero, to basically zero overnight. So this would have been a great selling these calls, but a lot of people don't like to do that because the risk to reward is not as great as just going YOLOing. But enough being said, let's go ahead and just kind of sum things up and look at PLTR chart, what we could be looking at for the future. So with PLTR chart, looking at earnings behind us, which is fantastic. This moving averages between the 5 and 8, which we've talked about, is still looking very strong because have not broken below that $14 or the 8 EMA on the daily chart. So this thing can still run. Like this is still a particular high flyer, in lack of better words, and really could potentially see this again. The next target is to stay above that 1550, which is again is the Fibonacci number, and the next target, look at that, it's around $19.57. So that is the next movement that we're going to be looking for, a target to the upside. Downside support is going to be coming around that $14 there, and then even significantly stronger support coming around the 21 EMA, which if you've watched the channel for more than 5 minutes, you know that is what I like to use between the 21 and the 34 EMA. So it's going to be coming around $12 to around $11.50 to be some very strong support to the downside. Again, guys, thank you so very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, this is Ken from the Dyslexic Investor, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.